Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's class. Today we're going to be looking at the Paleolithic versus the Stone Age. So let's get into it. The big thing here is food. In the Paleolithic age, men hunted for food and women gathered food from around the area. They were known as a hunter-gatherer society or nomads. In the Neolithic age, people learned how to grow their own food and people domesticated animals. Farming and herding was an important part of the Neolithic age. So in the hunter-gatherers, the men went out and they hunted like big game, like the woolly mammoth, but actually the people that brought the most food in were the women, because they were the ones making sure that they were guaranteed food every day. Now in the Neolithic one, it was farming and herding, so they were able to have more food with the farming. Now the shelters. There were no permanent homes in the Paleolithic age. This was because people hunted and gathered and they wanted to move where the food was. Therefore, homes were temporary. In the Neolithic age, they had permanent homes and they used timber or brick. And if you think about it, they want more permanent homes because they are going to be growing the food, so they need to water it, tend to it, all those things. In the other one, Paleolithic, they want temporary homes because when the mammoth moved, they need to move. If you look at that home under the Paleolithic age, you'll see it's made from bones and fur, and it was easy to set up and easy to take down. So it's one of those things that was just a really good way to make sure that they can move when the mammoth moved and quickly get there. Clothing. Clothing was made primarily from fur in the Paleolithic age. The climate was very cold during this time. It was the Ice Age, so yeah, people had to dress to stay warm. The Neolithic age, animal skins. In some places, people were able to make fabric, so they used animal skins from the animals they domesticated or raised, goat skin, cow skins, leather. In some places, they were able to make fabric. This fabric was for their clothes, but they also could make sails to help them sail the seas. In the Paleolithic age, there were simple shaped stone tools like cutters and hand axes. Also, they used spear tips and sticks. You'll see that they are pretty primitive there in the Paleolithic age. They kind of whack the rocks together to make these things for their hand tools. While in the Neolithic age, there were more advanced shaped tools like bows, arrows, and harpoons. Also, they use spear tips and the atlatl. We're going to take a little moment here to watch a quick video about the atlatl. Let me make sure that the sound is going.
In need of nourishment, Joe and Matt go on the hunt for food. With energy levels already compromised, any activity in the thin atmosphere of 10,000 feet forces the heart to work harder to deliver oxygen to the body, which burns calories at rates up to 28% faster than at sea level.
I saw some fish earlier as we're traveling down the creek, so I'm gonna go down and see if I can spot any. I'm trying to keep my profile low so I don't spook any possible fish. And sure enough, I see a really nice sized fish that looks like a trout. Trout, they're hunters. They have really good eyesight. They're very keen on their surroundings. So you have to stalk and be really careful with your approach. I'm gonna go try to make a thrusting spear or something that I can get it. Maybe an atlatl. Earlier I grabbed a few things out of the pack that I think will make a great fishing dart. I've built lots of atlatls, but out of materials that I'm familiar with. So I'm kind of brainstorming how to put that all together.
The atlatl is an ancient tool that uses leverage to propel a dart much faster and farther than a one-handed throw. In prehistoric times, they were used by humans hunting everything from fish and deer to bear and woolly mammoths.
If you found something like this and you didn't have sharpened stakes, even creating an edgy, blunt tip will kill a fish. Having multiple spikes splayed out actually pins the fish down inside there and also creates a little bigger surface area to hit the fish. All right, that feels pretty good right there. I see a nice sized trout. The lighting's kind of weird, but I'm like, okay, I got this fish. miss. When a dart goes in the water, it has refraction, so you have to actually aim below the fish quite a bit. There's a reflection on the water. It's hard to see how deep the fish is.
Water bends light, making objects appear closer to the surface than they actually are. Standing approximately 10 feet from the fish, Matt needs to aim 4 inches below and 3 inches closer than where his eyes see the fish.
Sure enough, it's a good solid shot. And all of a sudden I notice another fish darts right into this pool right in front of me. So I carefully step back and I grab my equipment. It's like, all right, you know, now we got 2 fish. Joe gets his own fish and I get a fish.
So as you can see, the atlatl was actually pretty effective for fishing and hunting, and it was really used to increase the distance and the range and the accuracy for a spear. We have 2 more videos here and then we're gonna be all set. I'm gonna go ahead and play this one for us.
Smile and learn.
5 things you should know about the Paleolithic. The Paleolithic is the first period of prehistory. It's also the longest period of time in history. It begins with the appearance of human beings around 300,000 years ago in Africa. Paleolithic means old stone, and this explains the appearance of the first stone tools. During Paleolithic times, humans lived in tribes, small settlements of 20 or 30 people, dwelling huts or natural caves. They were nomads, meaning they didn't settle in the same place. They traveled from one area to another looking for a location to fish, hunt, or collect food. In other words, they were hunters and collectors. Among their favorite foods were wild berries, deer, bisons, or even mammoths. During Paleolithic times, people held rituals to worship nature and ask for food abundance. That's right, they prayed to the sun and the rain. Another interesting aspect of their culture is that they buried their dead performing funeral rituals. Wow, it sounds like the earliest evidence of spiritual beliefs. Fire was discovered in Paleolithic times. No, that's not what I meant. It seems that the lightning from a thunderstorm accidentally started the first fire. Later on, men learned to make fire in 2 different ways, rubbing a stick against a tree trunk or 2 stones together. Fire was very important because it kept the people in the tribe warm during the night or in the wintertime. Also, thanks to the discovery of fire, they could now cook their food and enjoy eating tastier things. Art in Paleolithic times began 35,000 years ago. I'm sure you'll probably be wondering, was there such thing as a primitive museum? Not really. The first cave paintings were made on the walls and ceilings of the caves they lived in. Cave art was meant to decorate. They liked living in beautiful homes. Their paintings represented hunting scenes, like the one you can see in this picture. Isn't it incredible that their art still remains to this day? To make the paints, they used soil, blood, and plants. They painted using their fingers or paintbrushes. The first stone tools were made during the Paleolithic times. These tools were key to surviving because they made hunting and fishing easier and more effective. This was great because they could get more food. To make these tools, they shaped stones using another stone. Some of the first primitive tools were knives or arrowheads. As they were progressing, they started using materials like bones or wood to make needles or even harpoons. These first men continued progressing, becoming more and more intelligent and improving their lifestyle. The practice of agriculture and cattle raising marked the end of the Paleolithic times and the beginning of Neolithic times. These are the 5 things you...
Okay, and we have one last video for us here.
Smile and learn.
5 things you should know about Neolithic times. Prehistory is divided into 2 major stages, the Stone Age and the Age of Metals. The Neolithic period is the last stage of the Stone Age. Neolithic times began with the practice of agriculture and cattle raising. The word Neolithic means new stone, and this explains why the stone tools that appeared during this period were much more elaborate than Paleolithic tools. The beginning of Neolithic times is marked by the practice of agriculture and cattle raising. During this stage, humans started to domesticate animals like goats, sheep, and cows. These first farm animals were kept for their meat, milk, and skin. During Neolithic times, people started to cultivate the land to grow food, planting cereal like wheat or barley. For this reason, they stopped being nomads and their lifestyle became sedentary. They didn't have to travel to look for food. They had everything they needed in their villages. Neolithic times are marked by the first settlements found near fertile land, where there was plenty of water. They needed water for their animals and crops. Cattle raising and cultivating the land improved their diet. That's why populations started to grow. Small villages were growing bigger and bigger, and this brought in new ways of social organization. Tribal chiefs were responsible for the safety of the village and the well-being of the people. The first man-made stone tools appeared in Paleolithic times, becoming more elaborate during Neolithic times. The main difference was that these tools were no longer made by striking 2 stones together. They were made by friction polishing, meaning they were sharper and more durable. It was now easier to hunt and cultivate the land more effectively. Neolithic people invented the plow and the sickle, which they used for plowing and harvesting their crops. One of the most important tools was the hand mill. It was used during the Neolithic times to grind grains. During this stage, a very important tool was invented, the wheel. That made agricultural tasks much easier. This invention is equally important in modern times as well, as it is impossible to imagine life without it. Don't you think so? Other significant inventions took place as well, like the loom, which Neolithic people used for weaving clothes and tapestry. Thanks to this invention, they also managed to make the first sails, which helped them to navigate the seas using the force of the wind. Neolithic people are also known for discovering pottery and making ceramics. The first megalithic structures appeared as well. They are thought to have been used as burial and worship sites. Villages were growing bigger and bigger, and people started using metal tools in their everyday tasks. The use of metal tools marks the end of the Neolithic period and the beginning of the Age of Metals, a new stage in prehistory.
Awesome. So that was a little bit of a comparison between the Paleolithic and the Neolithic age. I hope everybody enjoyed it and they can kind of see that the Paleolithic age was more of one kind of moving around, following that food, and a little bit more primitive, while the Neolithic age was a little bit more advanced, was a little bit more settling, and a little bit farming. Both very important ages of the human development. The Paleolithic age is actually one of the longest periods that the humans have been in, even to this day. So, overall, I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of that. And I hope you learned something new about something old.